Immediately after arriving at his respiratory with Eggett, Dr. Starline filmed himself updating on the mishap that they encountered in the Eggman-based Misegma. Progress log update, he began. I hit a roadback. I assumed and amassed a substantial reserve of Eggman technology, but my current base operations lacks the facility necessary to utilize them. Dr. Starline turned to right to his capsules and he continued. My current long-term plans are to hold on hold until I have the necessary tools to complete my principal creations. Then he took his glove and snarled, this would be a simple matter if I had the warp topaz, but I overused that rescue after years of obtaining it. I lack the physical powers of the use of the brute, force as Sonic would. My friend, Eggett O. Eggman, Dr. Eggman's daughter, suggested that I need a replacement. I will need one that allows me to complete heaven evenly with my enemies. My heel spurs aren't as suffocant, but I would need something else in mind. But it requires resources that I cannot obtain as I am, which brings me back to my present condition. I retreated, rode back. Once Dr. Starline was done with his log update, Eggett arrived with his cup of coffee. Here you are, Dr. Starline, she said. Thank you, Eggett, Dr. Starline said, taking his coffee. You're the best. He smiled as he was rubbing his little helper's hair playfully. She giggled before she ran off to go back to work. Such a sweet little angel, Dr. Starline said to himself. But then his mood changed from sweet to sour. I must preserve, he stated. Eggman's ambitions will never advance as long as he caught his fixation on Sonic. So instead of following his footsteps, I should break that foul tradition and conquer the world myself, which is exponentially more difficult, since I'll have to cut ties with him. The platypus sipped some of his coffee before going back to thinking of a plan. Bad ninks are limited to their effectiveness, he said, rubbing his head. The personal enforces can't be completed until I have the base. I would need help, but I am not going to make the mistake of trusting the partnership again. Even if there's someone who hated Dr. Eggman and Sonic mutually, I would potentially sway and then dispose of them later. He grinned a sinister grin, all the while saying Eureka. He got up from his chair and took another sip of coffee. Feels so nice when you're evil, Dr. Starling said, chuckling lowly. He then walked up to the portrait of Dr. Eggman and looked at it, and he looked back at all the times he worked for the doctor and mistreated as a doubt of sorrow before looking inside his evil heart. Dr. Starline danced back to the chair as he was sitting on and having another sip of coffee. While delicious for a replacement, he said, before turning back to the portrait of his former idol. Wouldn't you agree, Eggman? He chuckled to himself until he started to sing again. And of course, after he finished singing for a moment, the platypus slowed his dance down and walked back towards the portrait of Dr. Eggman. He began to doubt himself for leaving the Eggman Empire and then betray him. But soon afterwards, yes, he did. The former boss was considering going back to him at first. But then he took down his pocket knife from his vest and then looked back at the picture for one more glance. His frown was changed into a sinister smile. He thought of leaving the Empire was the best thing he'd ever done, but so he changed his mind. Dr. Starling began to slash the portrait of his former idol with his trusty pocket knife. Once he was done with that, the picture was completely torn up. He took a couple of deep breaths and then wiped the sweat from his forehead. Sorry that I have to do this, Eggman, Dr. Starling said, but you leave me no choice. So not only I do want the egg-based Segma, but I will also want you to look at me as your superior replacement. You'll be sorry one day. You'll see. He laughed manically. Little did he realize, a mysterious robot was looking at him. It was not pleased with the platypus's plot. In fact, the robot was horrified by his behavior. It was partially a mirror of Dr. Eggman's behavior. Without second thoughts, the robot quietly snuck out of the respiratory and made snuck a message for the heroes. Back at Mystic Ruins, Team Sonic had just done taking care of their problems. Sonic and Tails were finally managed to stop scratching after treating themselves with anti-itch creams for their rashes. Ah, that feels so much better, Tails said. Sonic said, agreeing with his best friend. Knuckles took a shower from getting himself messy from the mud, and Lavinia brushed out all the tangles that were in her hair. I can't wait to knock some sense into that platypus, Knuckles muttered. Yeah, Lavinia agreed. I would like to give that Dr. Starling a piece of my mind for messing up my hair. Just then they heard some knocking from outside the wood shop. What's that? Tails asked. I don't know, Sonic answered. Maybe we should check it out. His friends agreed and they went outside to take a closer look. Once they were outside on the front porch, they saw a note hanging on the door. Hey look, Sonic exclaimed. It's a note. He removed it from the door and began to read it. What does it say? Knuckles asked. Well, let's see here, Sonic replied. It read, Dear to whoever's reading that message, if you're reading right now, it's time you should get moving. Dr. Starling the Platypus is planning on taking over both the Eggman Empire and the world. He is not alone in this wicked scheme. He wants to recruit some of the enemies you've came across before. Please hurry to Egg Base Sigma before his plan can be accomplished. From Belle. Who's Belle? Lavinia asked. Well, I don't know, Tails answered. Besides, I've never met anyone with that name before. In fact, no one, even the citizens in Station Square, knew anyone named Belle. But Dr. Starling taking over Eggman's empire and the world at the same time? Sonic stated. That's twice of a butt-kicking he'll get. But what or who is this Belle? Tails asked. And why does she or they want us to deal with Dr. Starline? She's either working with Eggman or against him, Sonic replied. Believe me, Knuckles joined in. I know an Eggman ally when I see one. Yeah, Sonic remarked. Like the time you thought Eggman was your ally, only to be find out he was your Master Emerald. Okay, Sonic, Knuckles groaned. The less I am reminded about that mistake I made years ago, the better. Regardless, Lavinia said, we gotta stop Dr. Starline before it's too late. Right, Tails agreed. He then took out his map and revealed all the parts of the world. He then began, we are here in the Mystic Ruins, so we would need to get going through the Grand Metropolis, Rail Cannon, Lost Jungle, and the Mystic Mansion. Soon we'll arrive at Egg Base Sigma. Perfect, Sonic said. We should look at his friends first and asked, you guys ready to teach Eggman a lesson? Sin? Well, and Dr. Starling? Yeah, Tails said. Sure, Lavinia joined in. I'm so in, Knuckles said. Without hesitation, in that case, we'll get moving, Sonic announced. They began to head out for the adventure of their lives. Just you wait, Eggman, Sonic said. We'll be on our way to crack your egghead open too. They started their request to find Eggman and gave him a piece of their minds. At the Gun Fortress, Guardians Units of Nation, known as Gun, was just having a coffee break after spying on Eggman for his scheme. Almost feeling like he was about to pass out, Shadow sipped his coffee and regained his alertness and awareness. Some coffee could do you great right about now, he said. He then turned to his fellow employee named Andrew and asked, wouldn't you agree? I'll say, Andrew said. Then someone began to call him Shadow. It was his girlfriend, Rouge the Bat, running towards him. E123 Omega and even Maria the Hedgehog were also following him because she was holding something important. What's up, Rouge? Shadow asked. Is there a problem? I got this note while I was changing my clothes, Rouge answered. He immediately began to read the note and it was handed to him. Not long after, the Ultimate Lifeform was confused. Who is this Belle person? He asked. He turned to Omega for an answer. Do you know Omega? Shadow asked. Negative, Omega replied. No name of Belle fits in my files. That's odd, Shadow said, putting his hand on his chin. It's bad enough that my cousin wants to take over the world, Maria stated, but with Dr. Starling attempting to take over my cousin's Egg Base Sigma as well as the world, that's twice as horrible. I agree with you, Shadow said. I think it's time we get moving. But before we do so, Rouge suggested, maybe we could have some directions? Affirmative, Omega replied. He summoned a digital map with his eyes, revealing their current location and pinpoint distant destination. It looks like we'll have to go for the Casino Park, Rail Cannon, Lost Jungle, and Mystic Mansion, Maria explained. Then we'll be at the Egg Base Sigma, and on top of that before Starline before he gets his chance to take over the facility, Shadow said. That sounds alright to me, Rouge stated. Okay, now we have directions, Shadow said. So let's go. With no time to waste, Team Dark left the Gun Fortress and began their journey to put up all of a sudden to Dr. Starline's scheme. At the Chaotrix Detective Agency, Team Chaotrix was hanging out by the office with little to nothing to do. Their office was close to Cream and Vanilla's house, so Victor would have been near his wife Vanilla, just in case if she needed something from him. "I'm bored," Boken groaned. "Yeah," Charmy agreed. "There's nothing to do." Katerina was lying on the couch, kicking a soccer ball in the air. "Well, it could have been worse," she said. "We could have been out of business for a long period of time." "True that, Katerina," Victor stated. "Thank goodness that we have relocated to next to my family. That way I could be close to my lady love." "Ooh," Charmy cooed out of mockery. "Victor is in love. Victor is in love," Boken said in a sing-song voice. To further mock the crocodile, both Charmy and Boken began to recite a little ditty. "Victor and Vanilla sitting in a tree, Kissing. This infuriated Victor as much as he yelled, "Shut up! Just because I am married to my sweet Vanilla doesn't mean I have cooties." "Wait," Charmy said. "Are you saying you have—" "Oh no," Boken shouted. "He's gotten cooties! Run away!" Charmy declared. They flew down from their boss who had begun to run after them in fury and annoyance. "Come back here," Victor shouted. Just then SBO heard something from the window where he was standing. His girlfriend took notice, so she went up towards him to check on him. "What's up, SBO?" Katerina asked. "Oh, I just thought I heard something from outside," SBO answered. "You think we should go check it out?" Katerina asked. Her boyfriend nodded his head, and they turned to their boss. "Victor," SBO said, stopping the crocodile's tracks, "Katerina and I are gonna go out check outside for something." "All right, be back," Katerina joined in. "Alrighty," Victor said, understanding what his investigations were to do. So he went back to trying to catch both the bee and the robot for mocking him. No sooner than SBO and Katerina went outside, Big and Styx unexpectedly arrived. "Hey, Victor," Styx greeted. The crocodile was now holding Charmy and Boken, who took notice of the sudden arrival of his friends. He released them from his grasp and sat back down on his desk. "Well, if it isn't Big and Styx," Victor said with a smile. "What a surprise! What can the Chaotrix do for you?" "Froggy and I were just hanging out when he caught something in his mouth," Big said. "It may have looked like some piece of fur," Styx said, who was holding this supposed fur, "but it didn't feel like actual fur." He then handed it to Victor so he could make a closer look at it. He said, placing a hand on his chin. "It was more wood-like than it was knocked on it from one of his hands, but it seems that the fur your froggy friend found was big and made of wood," the vet crocodile stated. "Oh," Big replied. "Well, so it's not actually fur." "No," Victor answered. "So that piece of wood Froggy caught must have been someone that is made of some sort of wood," Styx speculated. "You took those words right out of my mouth," Victor said to the badger. Charmy and Boken then began to sing "Knock on Wood," all the while using a piece of wood for the beat. Big and Styx then looked up at the duo with awkwardness, but Victor simply sighed. "Ignore them, they have no idea." Just then Katerina and SBO entered the office with miniature hammer on Katerina's hand. "Victor," Katerina said, "you're not gonna believe what me and SBO just found." "What is it, guys?" their boss asked. "We found a miniature hammer from the bushes," SBO explained. "Someone must have been using it to try to fix their water pipe on the broken days prior. No wonder why the rainwater wasn't coming out," Charmy thought. "Whoever left it there must have dropped it while they were leaving," SBO stated. "It appears that they left in a hurry and completely forgot about this," Katerina added. "It does seem like a mystery to me," Victor said. "And someone left behind a note," SBO added. The crocodile took the note from the chameleon's hands and read it. The note read, "Dear to whoever's reading that message, if you're reading it right now, it's time that you should get going. Dr. Starland the Platypus is planning to take over both the Eggman Empire and the world. He is not alone in this wicked scheme. He is recruits some of the enemies you fought before, so please hurry to Egg Base Sigma before his plan could be accomplished. From Belle." Vector looked quite confused when he finished reading the letter. "I don't understand," he said. "Why does the platypus want to take over that Egg Base Sigma?" "What is this Egg Base Sigma anyway?" Charmy asked. "And who is Belle?" Boken asked. "It was a cute name, though." Katerina took her geography book out and examined the directions of the detective agency's office to Egg Base Sigma. "My geography book says that the Egg-based empire is one of the buildings established by Eggman," she explained. "It consists of the complex industrial buildings, which with turrets sterilized as Eggman's head, and even heavy patrol of his robots. Oh great, Boken said, shaking his head. I'll never get that egghead symbol out of my head just looking at it. Easy there, Boken, Victor said, attempting to calm him down. We are here at Floral Forest Village, SBO stated, pointing at their location on Katarina's book. So we need to get through Casino Park, Rail Canyon, Lost Jungle, and Mystic Mansion, and then we'll be at Egg Base Sigma. Both the purple cat and the badger then were amazed at this destination. Victor turned to his fellow detectives and announced, Chaotrix, we've got a job to do. Okay, Charmy stated. Yippee! Boken cheered. Maybe we could go along too, Styx suggested. I want to kick that snotty-toothed platypus behind. I don't know, Styx, Katarina said. Egg Base Sigma is pretty far, and getting there could be dangerous, so you guys will have to hang tight, okay? Victor suggested. Besides, we'll take it from here. The Chaotrix just got ready to leave the office for the investigation. Come on, boys, Victor announced. Katarina cleared her throat as she nearly forgot that the team had a girl as well. And girl, Victor sighed. Thank you for noticing, Katarina said sarcastically. As soon as the Chaotrix left, Styx felt a little bit antsy about going, while Big felt okay staying behind. It's okay, Styx, Big said. We'll just have to leave it to the Chaotrix. Not quite, Big, Styx debated. Remember what that note said, that bell? This character is suspicious. What if she's also a robot as well? She could planning to trap them. Now I think about it, Big thought. It's best that we have some friends to help us out. Right, Styx said. I'll meet up with Marine and her friends. Okay, Big replied. Froggy and I are going to go see Amy and her friends. Styx took a note of Team Dimension areas where Big took Katarina's geography book to show Team Rose, as soon as they went their separate ways, not before saying goodbye to one another. At the rabbit residence in Floral Village, Amy, Rose, Cream the rabbit, Cheese the chow, and Cosmo the seedran were helping Vanilla, Coco Chow, and Grandma with all the garden. They were planting Vanilla's favorite flowers, daffodils and roses. Your flowers are coming together nicely, Vanilla, Cosmo said. Thank you, Cosmo, Vanilla replied. I've been longing to plant them in my garden ever since I was the Cream's age. These were also Grandma's rabbit's favorite flowers too, Cream added. Her mother giggled as she rubbed her head in a playful manner. That's right, my dear, she said. I'm pretty sure she's in heaven right now, smiling at us and watching us plant beautiful flowers. Cream then nodded in her head in agreement. Hi, Grandma Rabbit, she waved, waving up to the clouds as she called. As soon as she was placing the seed inside the soil, Cosmo began to sigh before she could speak. You know, she said, this reminds me of the time when I was planting garden for my mother back at my home planet. Oh, really? Amy asked. How do you do that? She was really interested in hearing all about the Seedran's garden experiments, and Cosmo explained, well, first I found a perfect spot for the garden, and it was a water hole, before it dried up. Next I took a couple of flower seeds, ranging from poppies to roses, and plant them in the soil. Then I gave them plenty of water and sunshine, and finally watched them grow before my very eyes. Wow, Amy said, you must have gotten with the gardening back on your planet. Uh-huh, Cosmo said, nodding her head, but it also took me a long time to understand the ashes parts of the soil too. She then searched for one back of the head and chuckled nervously. Believe me, Amy stated, Silver learned about it for a while, as he was fixing up the garden for himself. While gathering some seeds, Cheese spotted something in the distance. He turned to his owner and tapped her on the shoulder a couple of times, attempting to get her attention. Cream then turned to see her pet Chow and asked, What is it, Cheese? Cheese pointed something that caused the rabbit to look in his direction. She saw someone very familiar to her, as if it was a friend she hadn't seen in a while. Oh my, Cream gasped. She turned to her friends and said, Amy, Cosmo, Big is coming. Big? Cosmo asked. I haven't seen him in a long time, Amy said. Well, you know that what they say, Vanilla said. The more the merrier. She then turned around to look at her royal robot and asked, Right, Jeremiah? Well, affirmative, Miss Rabbit, Jeremiah answered. I wonder what he wants, though, Cream asked. I don't know, Amy asked. Let's find out. Big finally arrived at the garden after a long walk. Hello, he called, waving his hand. Hi, Big, Amy and Cream said as they ran towards the cat and gave each other a hug. Good morning, Big, Vanilla greeted him. Good morning, Miss Vanilla, Big said. It's nice to see you again. The cedar rain dusted the dirt off of her skirt as she made her way to her cat friend. Hello, Big, she greeted him. Hi, Cosmo, Big said. What are you guys doing? We're planting some flowers for Vanilla's garden, Amy answered. We have just got done planting some daffodils and roses, Cream added. What brings you here today, Big? Vanilla asked. Well, Big explained, Froggy and I were hanging out at home until we spotted a piece of wood that he caught with his mouth. He took a piece of wood and handed it to Amy, who examined it. Froggy caught this? She asked. Yep, Big answered. We went to Styx to borrow and even from the Chaotrix Detective Agency to get a closer look at it. Do you recognize this wood? I believe so, Amy said. It's a piece of oak. The pink hedgehog's friends walked up towards her to join her in the wonder. Do you remember the mystic ruins having oak trees? Cosmo asked. I don't think so, Amy answered, shaking her head. I have no idea either, Cream joined in. There must be something or someone gave Froggy a piece of oak wood, Amy thought. Cream then looked up to Big and answered, We aren't really entirely sure about where this piece of wood came from. He then continued his story, but then Katarina found a note that saying that Dr. Starling the platypus is gonna gather up more of his friends in this place called the Egg Base Sigma. Why? Cosmo asked. Does it have something to do with him taking over the Eggman Empire and then the world? Big responded. Well, this could be a problem, Cream said nervously. Her chow cheese was very concerned as well. Well, where is the Egg Base Sigma? Amy asked. The purple cat took out Katarina's geography book and opened it. It's right here, he said. His friends got a closer look at the map, and they might have to start strolling in the Grand Metropolis grind down the rail cannon, venture off in the lost jungle, and try not to get lost in the Mystic Mansion, and we'll arrive at the Egg Base Sigma. I see, Cosmo said. It's pretty far from here, Cream said, and there's nothing we can't handle, Amy declared. We can take it. Their thoughts were interrupted when shrieks coming from Cream's mother. Oh my, Vanilla gasped as they turned to see the rabbit's face growing pale. What's the matter, Mama? Cream asked, showing concern for her mother. Someone just tripped over my roses, Vanilla explained. The young rabbit looked at her Cocola, who had been dropping a piece of orange string. What did you find, Cocola? She asked. The brown chow then handed a string to Cream. Then her friends began to wonder about this origin. This fur looks so real, Big said. It almost looks like Styx fur. Amy felt the fur, but it feels more like a rope than actual fur. Strange, she said. It doesn't feel like actual fur. What is it then? Cosmo asked. I'm not sure, Amy responded. Maybe it's a rope thing or something. Miss Amy, Germile said, a note has arrived. He handed the note to the pink hedgehog, who read it. Afterwards, she was stumped. Whose bell? She asked. That note was from the same person who wrote to Cherex, Big pointed out. Yeah, Amy replied. But who is this Belle? Do you know, Big? Cream asked. It took a moment before to think the last time he encountered this Belle person, but nothing came up. I don't know, Big said, shrugging his shoulders. Vanilla took a moment to come up with the idea. Once she got done, she took Cream into her side. Cream, she said, why don't you and your friends go with Big to find out where this string belongs to? Do you think so, Mama? Cream asked. Of course, Vanilla answered, nodding her head. Besides, it's been a while since you've been on an adventure after all. The young rabbit looked at her friends, who were holding at her and looking at her mother. She then turned to see her mother, who said, Great, Mama. But then the doubtful thought popped in her head. But what about the flowers? No worries, sweetheart, Vanilla replied, patting her daughter's head. Germile and Coco and I will be able to help the remainder of the flowers. Coco shyly waved, whereas Germile gives the salute to Cream. With that being settled, Cream and looked at her mother with a smile. Okay, thank you, Mama, she said. You're welcome, Cream, Vanilla replied. Remember to stay with Amy, Cosmo, and Big. Okay, Cream responded. Come on, guys, Amy announced. Let's go get going. Okay, Cream and Cosmo said in illusion. Okie dokie, Big said. In no time to waste, they left the garden and searched for the mysterious owner of this strange orange rope-like string, but not without saying goodbye to Vanilla, Coca, and Germile. The kids grow up so fast, Vanilla said. Wouldn't you agree, Germile? Affirmative, Germile answered. They went back to gardening once the others were out of sight.